Good night. So what I'm going to do now is to hold a lecture on a very important subject, but unfortunately a subject that I have very little hard evidence at my disposal with its regards. And this is the subject of energy. It's quite a while that I promised you that I will speak about neurons and energy. So I'll do it now, finally. But again, it's very important to stress that unlike, other aspects of this new science, the science of the nanobots, this aspect is very problematic because of several reasons. And now it's only, of course, it got even more problematic because I don't have the microscope, so I cannot even test the new theories that I have, which is very sad. I really hope that, some way I will, soon enough I will have, if I possession my microscope or another microscope, doesn't matter, but some kind of microscope, because without a microscope it's incredibly difficult to advance, even though it's possible. And I will show you how. I try to advance even now, these days, even here. I construct stuff as you see in YouTube, and we have even some concrete advancement. Just as a teaser trailer, I will tell you that for the first time I succeeded in something that I try to do for a long time now, which is to actually create, make the neurons construct a ring. It's very thin. It's made in one of the containers that contain liquid, and it's floating in the liquid. And it's very thin and fragile, so I don't even want to touch it because I'm afraid that it will just dissolve when I touch it. But it's for the first time it is definitely a ring. Actually, to be honest, I have seen rings, but in the microscopic scale, which were actually a little bit similar to the ring that my mother's ring, the ring that I first if you remember that was a model for the other rings. Now when I want to, not now, but for quite some time, I don't have any actual ring. So when I want to, so I use a symbolic ring. I don't really use like a real ring, like a diamond ring. I use a symbolic ring, which is made from a small rubber band or azicon. I don't remember how its names. Like a stick. Maybe just a second. This is the type of rubber band that I use, for example, but only smaller. And the azicon, I don't have many left actually. I have very little left. So I need to be very frugal. Frugal is the right word. Well, this one is, this is the leftover of the azicon, but it's some kind of plastic that you can shape it the size of a ring. It's pretty sturdy. We're black like this, white like this. So, and I wrapped a little bit of an aluminum foil around that, so it will signify the diamond. So for the first time, I actually see the neurons creating things. That this is, I'm certain for the first time that, not in a microscopic scale, like in relatively big scale. It's not a big ring, it's something like that, but relatively big. If it will be completed, actually my daughters will actually be able to wear it, and it looks like a ring. It's like we have. I don't want to touch it because it looks very fragile, but you have you see the shape of the ring, and you see something that looks like shiny like a diamond, which is this is very good news as far from my perspective. I still don't know what is it made of. I would want it to. First of all, I would want them to the Neros to actually complete it, and it's not necessarily will happen. I mean, many times. I mean, I've seen the Neros working on a project and not be able to complete the project. I mean, it's actually much. I mean, more than. I mean, it's actually the common scenario that they start something and they can't. I mean, they can't finish it. I mean, of course, it's for. I mean, this is. Naturally, this is due to the lack of, I mean, the correct condition. Maybe they, I mean, I'm sure that it's not in their nature to never complete project, and we have already seen them complete projects, specifically living worms and little sculptures, so they can complete projects, but many times they don't. So I'm not sure. I mean, I hope they will be able to actually complete it, and I hope that it's. I don't know what is it made of. I mean, I really hope that the ring, like the round the component is made out of gold, and the rock is made out of is diamond. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they will actually. I mean, the worst case scenario is that they will actually that the diamond will eventually we'll see that it's made out of aluminium foil, and the ring is made out of rubber. This will be a real. I mean, this will be a real. I wouldn't want that, and it's going to be like a little bit of like a blow or a hit to what I always say, that they have symbolic understanding, even though of course that they, I mean, it will not dispute that this is the fact that they have symbolic language and the symbolic understanding. But I mean, I really, my wish is that that they will, I mean, harness their symbolic language and symbolic thought to actually prepare expensive stuff from without me having like any model which is made of, because I have nothing. I don't have anything remotely expensive at my disposal. But of course, I mean, in any way it will be a huge. I mean, it's already a very big advancement, and I mean, if they complete something, it will be a great advancement, because, I mean, if they can replicate, even if they, I mean, they will be, I mean, they will. I don't know if be able, because of course it's not it's more like it's less a matter of ability and less issue of communication, which is very complicated, but that's not the subject of this video, so let's not speak about communication now. It's a huge subject, but I mean, even if, I mean, I will find that I only able to communicate them, like to create like a diamond ring made and that, I mean, the ring itself made out of gold, only if I have like an example at my disposal, it will still, I mean, be I mean, a relatively quick way to be rich. I mean, I only need to get one, which is a problem when you don't have anything at all. Like I really have nothing. It's amazing how poor I am. I really have nothing, but I mean, I imagine that soon enough I will be able to acquire like a means to actually get one ring or one expensive like object. So in any way, it's an advancement. So let's get back to energy. There are many problems with regards to energy, and the problem is that all my work with regards to energy was very. I mean, it always relied on a lot of conjectures and theories that were very thin, like, and unsubstantiated. But nevertheless, we had a little bit of things like that were demonstrated that helped me focus, like, and continue with my study. It's not like totally. I didn't work completely in the dark. It should. I should also say that another problem with energy is that. First, I mean, there is the usual problem that I'm not a physicist, and I don't have like I didn't study physics like in university level, only on, you know, high school level, and I've read some, you know, popular science, and it's a limitation. Even though I'm in our context, perhaps it's like, I mean, it's of course it's a limitation, but perhaps it's also like a kind of like. I mean, arguably, you can say it's kind of an advantage, because, I mean, those creatures can do amazing stuff that are way outside the boundaries of established physics, and that is a fact. So, I mean, perhaps like a more like person which is too invested in physics wouldn't be able to actually, I don't know, propose like ridiculous theories like I propose, and actually he or she will, would have missed important clues and milestones. I will say regarding energy that energy is a concept that we use a lot in our day-to-day it's both like a physical metric and also something that we use in our day-to-day life. We use we say that we don't have energy to do this or this or that, even though mostly what we really refer is to mental capacity. So it's like a very common metaphor, and it's also used a lot in with regards to it's very it's a physical property or physical metric that is very has a very strong hold in public discourse, because people always, at least since the 1970s, it's a huge part of international politics. Especially in the United States, but not only in the United States, but the United States, you can see it. It's very common since the 1970s. It's something that you see a lot in American politics. The discourse surrounding energy. Prices of fuel and international shortages of, due to all sorts of reasons, wars and military conflicts surrounding energy and fracking and all these issues regarding green energy. I myself, I worked in a green energy company for almost 6 years, and I know how much politics you can find in the subject, because it's never ending, because even if you work for even the companies, especially the companies that do whatever they can in order to push green energy and to offer alternative to fossil fuels. It's not that they don't get you could have thought that those companies would be supported by green organization or leftist organization, but actually it's the opposite, because it's like they say that in Hebrew, הקדוש ברוך הוא מדקדק עם צדיקים כחוט השערה. I don't know what's the translation, but it means that the more righteous you are, the more God checks you, and is more pedantic with you. The most paradigmatic example is Moses, from the Bible, which he was so righteous, but God really really judged him for every small violation. For example, that he told them that he should speak to the rocks so waters will get out, but he hit it with his staff, and he was punished for that by not entering the land of Israel, just seeing it from afar. So it's like that with green energy. The more you actually you do everything you can to actually create valid alternatives for fossil fuels, and the more you are judged for. If you don't know this material, you will not believe how much how complicated the green energy politics is, and it's never ending. So people speak a lot about energy, but actually energy is something that is very it's one of the physical metrics that exists. It wasn't introduced in modern physics. It's not part of it existed in physics before the 19th century, before the major advancement in electricity and magnetism, but it's not as trivial or what actually it is not that is much more abstract than other metrics that are that you can find in classical physics. For example, Newton didn't know. Didn't use the word energy. He didn't know what it is even. So you can say, why he didn't discover it, but it's more complicated than that, because it's not that he didn't discover energy. It's just that he didn't use it as part of his model of physics. Used energy is only meaningful. The concept of energy is only meaningful. I mean, when it goes hand in hand with the concept of preservation, of the law of preservation of energy. You don't if you don't have one, you don't have the other. You cannot say that. I mean, energy doesn't mean anything if there is no law of preservation of energy. And of course, the law of preservation of energy doesn't mean anything without the concept of energy. These concepts are closely related. And Newton didn't need the concept of preservation of energy for his advancement in physics. So because he didn't need the law of preservation of energy, he didn't need the concept of energy. So it's kind of. So let's say, that you meet with creatures, sentient creatures, or creatures that demonstrate intelligence behavior, that demonstrate capabilities that, at least on surface level, they contradict the law of preservation of energy. Then first of all, it will be amazing, and second, it will actually it will devalue the concept of energy itself. It will mean that either you don't understand what happened and you need to it's kind of like a magic trick that you need to unlock, or actually the law of preservation of energy is not true, and then even the concept of energy itself is doesn't mean what you thought it means. So if when we look, we've already we watched the Neros actually enrich fuels, basic fuels, but fuels like oil, like olive oil or linseed oil, and in most obviously in the most I think apparent way candle wax. We have beeswax. We've seen that they can enrich the stuff, so it will. So in a way that it will burn in considerably it will not only burn more time, but it will release energy. And I was there. It's real fire. It's hot and it stinks. And it's fire. It's not it's not kind of like a magic magic fire that is only blue but it's not hot or something like that. It's fire. It's you could have roasted an animal in it or something like that. It's fire. I managed to light even branches of tree that it's difficult to actually put a fire on it with. It was so we actually have seen greatly increase the energetic potential of the material. So it's a question. And it's not you cannot argue that that the beeswax is is like a radioactive material that you can use it for fission. So we've already seen. I wouldn't be that quick or bold to actually say that the law of preservation of energy is contradicted by the videos that I uploaded, but it certainly was put to question. There is the thing that you've already seen in this YouTube channel put into question the law of preservation of energy, and hence it also put a huge question mark on the concept of energy itself. So what is energy? The simplest way, and the way that it is taught for beginners, is that energy is something that is closely related to the concept of work. And work is also work can be defined in two ways in this context. One way to define work is to change is a process of changing energy forms, because energy, according to can take several forms. The most basic one is heat, which is supposed supposedly the most basic, but there is also light, and and there is what we call potential energy, which is kind of it it relies on an object being like, in a gravity field or another kind of force field, not only gravity, but most simple example is gravity. So for example, I mean, when you change, I mean, the energy form, you produce work. So, and mathematically or physically, work is most commonly it's just it's a force over like a distance. It's like a distant or like some kind of a range where you apply force. Why all this is important? Because I want let's get back to like the simple like regular Joe that is penniless and the government prosecute him and he really wants money and he think, okay, maybe I can produce diamonds and gold like in my room in my hostel for homeless people. So that what I want I wanted to weapon. What do we need to do in order for that to happen? So those neurons, those nanobots, they do work. We've seen them do work. Okay, work. Example of work is construction of miniature or microscopic or just small statuses, and for that they needed like to take raw material from one place to the other. Also construction of actual life forms that are moving. You could say that they are robots. I don't find this distinction very important in our context, but they certainly do work. They change. They manipulate energy. Now you could have said, okay, maybe they don't need like energy. Like in a raw form, they can just manipulate matter and extract energy out of it the same way that humans do. For example, humans don't use energy directly; they eat, and there is energy. The energy is stored. It's called calories. It's measured by calories, and it's stored inside the food that they eat. And they have like an engine in their body, which is the digestive system and other system that take this the chemical fuel and actually produce like energy that is used to do things like that. This is work. For that we needed energy. We applied force over like a distance. So maybe it's the same with the neos, and maybe they can do it even in a much like better way. Maybe they can, I don't know, do some things that seem to be impossible. Like maybe they can start like nuclear reactions inside like even like not radioactive materials, which doesn't make much sense. But in reality, what we've seen that it's not what they do. We've seen we've seen that they need both raw materials and energy, unlike humans that only get raw materials. These guys, they do their stuff using raw materials, and actually they are incredibly good. Like they are remarkably efficient in manipulating raw materials. This is something that we've seen a lot. They are not picky at all with what raw materials. I don't have enough information to present like a whole theory of what kind of raw materials they actually use, and I'm working on it a lot since the beginning. And actually, it's got more complicated because when I understood that they enhance they actually one of the things that they can do is that they enrich like the fuels. So now it's like a whole new process that I should think about. Up until now, mostly I thought about like how you hold the neos themselves, like you let them multiply or grow, or you charge them with energy, and then you need to put like to store it, which is also an issue, because I mean you don't want them to start to create life or things like that. And then you need to take like the prepared solution with the Neros, which presumably are like in a better condition than or whatever, a larger number or bigger size or more capable than when they when I like ejaculated them or peed them. And then take this solution and put it inside like another compartment, which is where I do where I want them to do the work, whatever it is, like construction of something, which is like the brown domes, or you know, things like or the more like symbolic or the symbolic actions. But in any case, it's two phases. But now it wasn't it actually was always more than two, because there is also another phase that I didn't speak about, which is under the category of communication, and I don't want to get into it because it's extremely complicated. There is another like sub-step of teaching them about like what you want them to create. Like they don't, it's, I mean, I mentioned it very briefly with regards to the diamond ring, but I mean, there is also, I mean, before they actually create something, they actually need to learn about it. So there is another step of learning, and then they remember. And they have a collective memory. I mean, I know it's amazing and something that is unbelievable from established under established physics, but it's a fact. And it was proven in the ex nihilo, in various ex nihilo experiment. They remember what they've seen, and so there is another actually step, but let's leave it aside. This is under communication, which is it's very complicated subject in its own. But normally, let's say that they already have the knowledge of we understand each other now. So after, I mean, the first stage of like of getting them like of making them grow or like enriched or whatever, then there is the second stage of like let's say the brown dome, where I put like a raw material and I communicate what I want them to create. But actually now we have another stage, which is the enrichment of the raw material itself, which makes it even more complicated, because now I understand that, I mean, if they are so good at like enriching like or changing the chemical properties or even the physical properties of beeswax, so why not, I mean, use beeswax, I mean, give it to them for like as a material for their construction. Presumably it will be like I don't know, it needs to be proved, but I mean, I already used, by the way, beeswax as I should say that, I mean, so forgive me for like jumping from subject to subject, but I don't know, I speak like without preparation, and it's a very complicated issue, the issue of energy. I will remind you that the first worms were not created, that I've seen, were not created in a liquid, like in the soup. That's the way that I'm doing it for, and I've done it many times. They were actually created inside an almost completely solid mixture, which was made from sugar, a little bit of from sugar, polydyne, and beeswax, and a little bit of other stuff as well, but mostly that. And it was like it was rock hard, and the Neros, of course, and it was rock. It was just like rock. It was not so. The first actually worms were created there, so it's not that they can only be created from in liquid. And I'll speak about about this distinction in a while. What I want to say is that, I mean, it was actually proven just, from the start that the beeswax is actually at least, if not neutral, possibly beneficial, but it doesn't hurt to be part of the mixture that actually they use in order to create the worms. So one could say maybe, it's better to use the enriched beeswax. Maybe, it makes sense that, if it's so much like more energetic and they need energy, maybe, we should use that as well. So, it makes everything more complicated, and also with regard to energy. Now, I've said that, as opposed to humans or other creatures, like living creatures, they don't use matter like they don't use matter for energy. They need matter for their work, but they also use energy directly. And this is a bold statement, and I need to a minute to actually, justify this statement, because you could, one could think, why do we, humans are not charging themselves they're not like connecting to the electric socket, and humans don't like absorb like energy from the sun. They need sun for like vitamin D and things like that. But unlike plants, for example, they don't have photosynthesis. They don't get sun energy from the sun directly, like all like green stuff on Earth, or like the cyanobacteria, which is the most common generator of photosynthesis. So why do you think that they actually need energy at all? Maybe they get the energy from the raw material and perhaps by like processes that are outside the boundaries of physics. But that was demonstrated not to be the case. It was demonstrated that they actually use energy. They know how to use energy, not from matter, and this was a very important discovery, extremely important discovery, and because I don't have much, I didn't have a lot of substantial facts with regards to energy, but this was really important for me for the rest of the work on this subject. And of course, what I speak now is about the issue of electrolysis and life. So actually, the first place where I actually created worms in the plastic glass that I just described, that was actually completely very solid. It wasn't like a soup, the regular soup. There was also electrolysis in it, like two rods that were connected to battery, not to transformer, socket transformer as I do now. And it was connected. It was like that. For maybe 10 hours, and then I disconnected it, and I kept the glass sealed for a week or so, and then we've seen those worms inside the almost solid mixture that the glass contained. After that, I've done I've done several, or during this time, these days, I held several experiments with energy, specifically electric energy. You can ask, why are you such a genius? How did was it a prophecy? How did you think about that the neurons will actually create worms inside a liquid with electrolysis rods inside with direct current? But actually, if you remember correctly, I've done several different experiments. It wasn't the only thing that I tried. I tried all sorts of electrical machines that perhaps in retrospect look maybe, I don't know, ridiculous or something that is taken from a horror movie. But you don't know what will succeed. So I had all sorts of ideas with regards to magnetism and all sorts of stuff that I've tried. Maybe some of them will actually reuse in the future, or at least the concept. But what was demonstrated that is nothing really works besides electrolysis, which works very well. And so yeah, since then, I stuck to. I didn't stop. I also held other experiments with regards to electricity and magnetism, and also I'm still doing it actually right now in the hostel, and I'll speak about it in a minute. But it was demonstrated for me that that for certain they actually that the method of electrolysis is beneficial, is very beneficial, because they use the energy for doing work. Now, there is this distinction here. What exactly is it that I do? Electrolysis is actually an effect that I'm not sure at all that is actually helping us. What we do is we put the two rods. We create a direct current circle, and we put two rods inside the liquid, and the process for electrolysis is used, I mean, to cover like small stuff with like with relatively small cover. I mean, and it's used to cover things in gold or things like that. But so something like that is also happening because we actually see the roads erode. I mean, so maybe something happened in the chemical level here, like, but it's much more. It's very difficult to prove, but it's much more likely. It's much more probable that what actually happens is that the circle, the electric circle is closed. I mean the electrons are moving, or I mean I don't know how to like what's the accurate like physical description of the closing the circle, but they close the circle and through the neos, which means that they are very conductive. I mean they need to be very conductive for that purpose, because otherwise I don't understand how how they can actually use. I mean, if the circle is not closed through the neos, I don't understand how they can use the energy. Okay, so I mean the circle is closed because the liquid is in itself is conductive. We use, and that's one of the reasons to use liquid, because it's conductive. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the only possible way that I can understand that they actually can use it is if it passes through them, and they act like like a component in the circle, like they have some kind of resistance, and they use some electric energy for their work. Otherwise, I don't understand what happens here. And of course, and again, in order for this to happen, they need to be very conductive, which is by the way, it can be in itself. It can be very. It can be great, because very conductive material is something that people are occupied in, like the whole issue of superconductors, for example, is and certainly room temperature superconductor could be extremely beneficial in itself. So there is a lot of interesting stuff here that I cannot speak about because I don't have not the knowledge, but not enough evidence. But I'm certain that. So still we need to ask ourselves. Wait, how do you even know that they actually use the energy? And there is another question: is maybe they use energy as the electric, specifically the electric circle that is closed, as a signifier. Maybe it's just signifier for them. Okay, now create life, but they don't actually use it because the same way that I signify, like part of the language, the communication between them and me is I signify stuff for them, but they don't actually use it. It's symbolic language. So you can say, okay, this signifies something, and perhaps it's part of their programming, or perhaps it's something like pseudo-natural. Maybe they came from the planet, or I don't know, like a megastructure in space or moon or whatever that which is part of the I don't know, the environment is that they need to create life on certain times, but it's only when there is some kind of electric reaction. Maybe, I don't know, but no, it's not the case. They actually use the energy. And how do we know it? So first of all, they create the worms not only when where I had electrolysis, not even not stopped one, I've described before. I've seen worms in cans and compartments, experimental compartments that were not subject to electrolysis at all. But it was much more rare, and it takes much longer. They still need symbolic commands, but I don't want to speak about that now. But it's much more. And the process is not is very difficult for them And when they are subject, when the liquid, the canister is subject to electrolysis, it happens even if we have very little neros, like even a drop of my semen is enough. Like, I mean, as opposed to the other, like where without electricity you need much more and a much longer period of time, and it's done very quickly. Like, I mean, between an hour and 3 hours, and I mean, after an hour you start to see it, and like after 3 hours you're getting like viable worms. So what's viable worms, and how do we actually know that so we know that, I mean, yeah, they use the energy because it's not a symbolic thing, because they can do it without the energy, but they do it much more efficiently and quickly and reliably when, I mean, they have the electrical energy at their disposal. Moreover, as it's a process of creating new worms. I've done it like several good times that I can reliably speak about the process. What you see is that you can actually start to see like it starts like a white, like, I mean, cloud inside the liquid, and it's getting like its color. They have several colors, and eventually they start to, like, I mean, you see like a worm that is autonomous. And how do we know that it's alive? Because, I mean, and that's another distinction, if you stop electrolysis in the middle, I mean, only those that are complete will actually survive and like keep like be able to move, and the other ones that were not that are still like in the white phase will just dissolve quickly. I mean, not too quick, but after like an hour or so, 2 hours, they will dissolve into the liquid. And you will just, what you left is just like, I mean, muddy white dispersed cloud where there was a worm or almost finished worm before. So you can see that, I mean, what I understand from it is that, I mean, the energy is used for the actual thing. It's not just a command or like a symbolic thing. And I mean, if I mean in the middle of the process, I mean, the workers are cut from the energy source, then it just, I mean, it dissolves into the liquid where it started, unless it was finished already, and then, I mean, I mean, there is another question of whether, I mean, the living worms have any benefits from electrolysis. But as I said in the past, I didn't have the capacity. Like, although like those 2.5 months under arrest in my mother's apartment were so hectic, and I've done so much things, and I was under so many pressures and really torture, physical torture, that I couldn't like do everything. And the study of the living worms is a whole like subject in itself that I didn't have I didn't have like time and energies to actually do it, and it's incredibly like interesting. Like, I mean, it's a whole new science. Like, what I mean, and if you remember, I've already like bought little stuff, like several like little sponges. I thought about like creating a new terrarium for these worms, because I did want to actually hold a little bit of research on the living worms, but I didn't like have I didn't like manage to reach to do it, because there were so many things that I've done, and so many microscopic work, and the AC, DC, whatever, and fire, and it was so hectic. So and it's a whole like an issue in itself, like a study of the living creatures, like the big, I mean, they're incredible. They swim inside like oil, and I mean, and they were created inside, like the liquid, I should remind you, is made of like anti-life matter. Like it's made of my semen, a little bit of my pee, but also a lot of alcohol, 70%, hydrogen peroxide 3%, and iodine solution with iodine is 10%. They all are, I mean, basically everything that is used in order to kill life, and they were created inside it. So they are, I mean, they're completely immune. They literally were born inside what kills like living creatures. So they have incredible immunity, and they like industrial oil, and so I cannot tell you almost anything about like the life of these creatures, because just I didn't have the time, like, and I didn't have the capacity to hold any meaningful research in this like front. But of course, it can be incredibly interesting to ask, I mean, to see if, I mean, even like when they are already alive, perhaps they still can like, perhaps electrolysis they can still like benefit from electrolysis, or maybe it's torture for them. I don't know. Maybe it kills them. I just don't know. But for certain I mean, I think, unless I missed something very important, it was demonstrated that yes, this electrolysis is a viable way to supply the neurons with energy, probably because they, I mean, they use it. I mean, they because they are very conductive, even perhaps even superconductive, if we allow ourselves to be like optimistic, because that it will be even more beneficial. Even they are so beneficial already, but this will be even more beneficial. But they are very conductive, perhaps superconductive. So the current flows through them inside the liquid, and they act like component in the circle, electric circle, and they use the energy, some of the energy. That is my understanding of what happens, and I think that it's supported by facts. Perhaps other things happen. I mean, there are still other options. I mean, one could argue that it's not the energy itself, but the electrolysis. I mean, the galvanization. But I don't think. I mean, I don't see how it can. I don't see how. I mean, why? Like, why would galvanized neurons be more effective, and how is it? I mean, even if they do, I mean, so after you cut, I mean, you stop electrolysis. I mean, what's already galvanized should stay galvanized. But so it doesn't like explain how, like, why the worms are dissolving, or in the process are dissolving. Other options is that I mean, another option is that it's something to do with magnetism, because I mean, if there is like if there is a flow of like electrons, I mean, there is also a magnetic field. So I mean, whenever there is a flow, there is a magnetic field, and you can say, okay, when they are subjected to the magnetic field, it's kind of like, I don't even know how to articulate it, because I found it like I cannot I cannot like dismiss this kind of theory completely, because I think, and I actually hold research on this on like with this theory on the background right now, that they do. I mean, that magnetic fields and the change of magnetic fields actually, I mean, is something important for them, especially for their as a signifier, or something that enables their cloning. I mean, which is very important and very exciting. That's what I've spoken about in the last video, previous scientific video, the way that they multiply, and I that's what I'm doing these days. Unfortunately, I don't have the microscope, so can't say how it goes, which is really a shame. But it's one of the things that I actually do, and I will speak about it in just a minute, because it's also, I mean, it's part of the issue of energy. But so you can say, okay, I mean, what we have here is the magnetic field, but I mean, it doesn't sit well with evidence, because I've already checked this. I mean, as I've said, I mean, I've created several like when I wanted to create life, I created several like containers with all sorts of like contraptions, and part. I mean, some of them I actually created a much stronger magnetic field where the neurons existed, because the magnetic field, I mean, the magnetic field that is created, I mean, by such a small, like a weak current, which, I mean, inside the liquid is very weak, extremely weak, and I've created much stronger ones. I mean, there are ways to create much, of course, using electricity, but there are ways to create much stronger magnetic fields, like the ones that I actually I do now. But I've already done them. I mean, I've done some things in the past as well, and I didn't get like good results. I mean, with regard to the creation of life. Maybe I didn't know that, and they multiplied like crazy. I mean, but I didn't check it, or didn't know what to actually check. But I don't remember that it had good consequences, like positive results with regards to creation of life, or of robots, or whatever you call it. But you know what, worms that, I mean, look alive. So So I mean, it's not supported by evidence, even though I mean it's a slim possibility, but I don't. It makes little sense to me, and it's not. And when I tested this theory, I found it doesn't like. I mean, it doesn't give me the required results, and electrolysis did give me. I mean, again and again. In a repeatable way, it gives you the required results. So as I said, I mean, what I found like in the most like viable theory is that I mean they actually close the circle, and because they are so conductive, and then they are like a component in the electric circle, and they can use the energy as like as the components in the circle. I should say that the only way that I did it until now is with one circle, like I mean one road, like a positive, one negative road, and I've given a tip now by a nice subscriber that perhaps I should use more than just one like pair of rods. Which is a very thank you, very good tip. Actually, I mean, I thought about it, but I mean, I now that I got the tip, I'm more like inclined to actually do it. It's part of the new the new compartment, which I'll speak about in a minute. It's already it was actually prepared in a way that will allow more than two rods. So we have it, and it's the super compartment, and I think all of you will be very pleased to see that it's completely brown. It's completely brown, which means that it will be used for the purpose of perhaps producing valuable stuff to a completely poor alien robot that is tortured by the government, and less for the even more important purposes of destruction of mankind and summoning of spaceships into this world, and also the creation of parasites inside human pigs that have eaten the Neros. I will still, I mean, also, I mean, conduct research, I mean, and practical advances on these very important theaters. But I mean, this is, I mean, as you see, this new compartment is completely brown, which means that it's meant for actual construction of physical objects. And one of its features is yes, it's there is like it's they say in Hebrew הכנה למזגן, like I mean it's come prepared for, I mean, with the feature of like sockets that will allow me to pretty easily insert more rods, and maybe this will I'm using like relatively high voltage transformer that I've like found in the garbage in the street, and not that high, but I mean something like about 30 volts, which is better than what I've had until now. So we can create like a parallel circle that will distribute the volt between several circles, perhaps 3 or 5, I don't know. Maybe we'll do it with 3 circles instead of just one, and then we will have like more rods and more closed circles, and perhaps it will be more beneficial for the purpose of the work. Okay, so I'll speak about it in just a minute. What is very important for all the electrolysis issue is that yes, I mean, I think that is kind of demonstrated that these creatures use energy directly for, I mean, to do work, not only by like, I mean, just, I mean, consuming chemical energy like animals or humans do, but they actually use, but more like plants, like they do electrolysis. I mean, plants are actually very complicated from the energy perspective, because they also, I mean, most of their energy usually, I mean, for most plants, most of the energy they get it from the sun using photosynthesis. I mean, so they get directly. They get the photons from the sun. They use the light, and it transforms to chemical energy. But they also get it from the ground. So it's kind of like plants are very complicated with regards to energy. So yes. I mean. There are other. I mean, so as I've said, I suspect that the magnetic field is something that, I mean, changes in the magnetic field is something that they get it like as a sign to multiply, or maybe they can actually gather energy from the changes in the magnetic field. And I don't really understand how it happens, but it's a possibility. And what also, I mean, happens like inside. I should mention that what also happens like as a side effect from the creation of magnetic fields is kind of like a rhythm, a thumper that, I mean, creates like booms. And this is something, I mean, that I cannot explain. And if someone, I mean, surely it's got this very simple explanation. I just that I don't know nothing about electricity and physics, and so this is something that, I mean, if someone can actually shed some light on it, and I'm sure that many watchers can, because it's probably something very easily, but it's very interesting to understand, for me to understand what really happens. I mean, I would expect that, I mean. Let me just show you. I mean, the video is more like. So yeah. So this is the. This is where, I mean. We have. This is, I mean, a compartment where, I mean, there is like a neurons mostly from like my semen and my pee, and here you see the generator. It's actually just, I mean, like a large screw that I placed on this piece of wood, so which will be sturdy, and I've wrapped a coil around it as best as I can. And now I should put it in again as it was. Just a second, I'll do it. Just a minute. I mean, in order for it not to actually like jump, like you've seen in one of the short videos that I published, I don't want it to actually jump, because, I mean, the thumping effect is actually, I mean, make it jump, but I don't want it to jump. So I try to put like the sardines can, I mean, as tightly as possible in it, so we'll not get this jump effects. Just take me just a second to do it, okay? Okay, so now it's secured, so it will not jump. And now I will connect. I will close the circle. So see what it doesn't jump because it's secured in it. But you definitely hear the thumping, boom, boom. And I don't understand why. I mean, what is why do we have this? I mean, this rhythm, because. Boom, 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 and each rhythm is like is like a hit. It's like something hits the can, and if it wasn't like secured, as I said, you could have seen it jump, as you've seen in the short video. So I don't really understand what happens here. I mean, my hope, and it's a shame that I cannot test it, but because I don't have the microscope, my hope is that either the magnetic field that is created, and there is a magnetic field validated with like just, with a screw that is tied to a rope or something like that. So either the magnetic field in itself or the rhythm, the mechanical rhythm, signifies for the neurons to multiply, as is evident that they do inside the freezer, or more, specifically in the close to the, inside the freezer, but close to the door, like where it's highly magnetic. And I hope that they will multiply, where they are inside it. I forgot to mention something with regards to electrolysis. What is also happening when you do electrolysis is the process of ionization. Like, you negatively charged the particles inside the liquid, and possibly also the neurons, which can affect their ability to do work, maybe in positive or negative way. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's something that I cannot test, and I don't really understand. But what's certain is that if you transfer is that if you color you stain with the microscopic stain the solution that contains the neurons, and you place the stain, and after you do it after they were subject to electrolysis, and something that you do, and then you take. And then you do another electrolysis, and you take the stained material and put it inside the liquid. You see that they all as you'd have expected, they swim. They are attracted into one of the poles, which is to be expected because they are negatively charged, and so they should be attracted to the positive pole. I don't know. It might help in that. It makes them maybe be closer to each other. So it might be advantageous, but it might be disadvantageous because it will perhaps limit their ability to move, because they have they move voluntarily with their own volition. So, but I don't know, and they don't even have a working theory. Anyway, I would like to understand what causes those thumping. And my conjecture is that it's very possible that there is a mechanical energy that is involved here, because it's actually the can get hit. So maybe they can use this mechanical energy in a way, which is very interesting, and it's a theory which is very difficult to actually to test, but it's another theory, and I've spoken about it in if you remember, with regards to sounds. I was interested in the past of what's the effect of sound and music on the neurons. I'm not sure that they have any particular taste in music, but more in how they interpreted the mechanical consequences of sound or music. This is also true to what and this is also relevant to what we've seen, that they like to be inside the freezer, and like the way that they multiply, which is very beneficial even when it's taken, and even more so when it's taken out of the freezer. Because there are so many of the neurons, and they do great work. So I hypothesized that maybe the transformer sound that exists in every refrigerator and freezer is something that is also beneficial, because again, either something it signifies something to them, or maybe they can actually use the mechanical energy that is created by the transformer to their advantage. These are all conjectures, and it's difficult for me to actually to test it right now. Okay, so it's a long video. I'll stop here, and later I will prepare another video in which I will explain in practice, the nature of the new, I've already, you've seen the magnetism, the magnetism device. which is now more like secure because it's made from like wood and screws, and it's tied together. But I will speak about this one, which is should be acted like as my superior canister for the creation, construction of like material stuff. It's yet to be proved. It's yet to prove itself because it's nothing like of value was still have not created there. As I said, the actual ring that we see starting to form is created in another containers. But this I hope this will be the future of at least the near future of because it boasts a lot of like new features and we'll speak about it in a while.